Hi, I'm Bob Dixon. Welcome to the Leader's Edge Hot Takes edition of the Five Eagles Insight Podcast. For over 3 decades, I served in the military as an engineer and as a strategist, and I learned a few things about leadership. We know that it goes beyond theory. It's about real-world application. So in this series, sponsored by Five Eagles Leadership, we feature industry leaders and share their leadership journeys with you. My mission's simple. It's to help you become the best leader you can be. Now, if that sounds like something you're interested in, make sure you hit the subscribe button so you never miss an episode. If you'd like to be considered as a guest in upcoming episodes, please go to 5eaglesleadership.com/interview and apply today. Now, let's get started. Hi, and welcome to Leader's Edge. This is a podcast about business leaders in any industry. And right now we're talking to Corinne Green. She is the HR mom. That's management on the move. She does small business HR strategy and consulting. Welcome, Corinne.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you for having me.
Well, I'm super glad to have you. I think the HR thing is probably one of the most misunderstood and underappreciated components of running a small business. So I'm really glad to have a conversation with you today. Real quickly, can you give me a 90-second overview of your business and kind of how you got into it?
Yeah, so we are human resources managers on the move, also known as HR Mom. We are essentially a one-stop HR department, organizational development arm for small businesses. We specialize in recruitment, writing policies, HR compliance, training and development, and business development. We primarily support Black, minority, and women-owned small businesses.
That's awesome.
And I got started in 2019, and I built this business to support the businesses that didn't necessarily have access to these resources. I had a background in HR. I worked in corporate America, primarily sat in the C-suite and dealt with a lot of HR-related issues, working directly with CEOs. And I realized a lot of these HR-related big business practices wasn't necessarily trickling down to the small businesses. And it's really what most of them need to be competitive and to grow their businesses. So I just started to start HR Mom to support those businesses in their areas of development.
That's great. I think you're right. A lot of the corporate structures have all sorts of support and school-trained professionals that help them understand the HR, particularly in the compliance area, I think is where a lot of us small businesses struggle. And to have somebody in their corner like you is a huge benefit. What would you say is the biggest problem that you see in your industry right now?
I think the biggest problem is access to resources. I think most of them really struggle with knowing when they need to reach out for support. I think a lot of small businesses, they have the sales and the marketing component because they're either selling a product or services and they've done very well. But then when it comes down to the back of the house with that structure, with policies, with compliance, or even ready to grow their team, they really don't know where to go. So that's where we would come in. And then really having access to funding, access to capital. So where do they go for those resources? So looking at their small business development centers, looking at the SBA options and SBA resources and things of that nature. So really just growing capital, access to revenue, and access to resources.
Yeah, I think you're right. There's a lot of information out there that just doesn't get to those small business owners. And many small business owners have a great idea. They have a great product or a service. And so they just jump in with both feet. I'm going to start a business. And they don't necessarily know where to get those resources or even know that they need to find those resources or that those things might be available to them. So the ability to connect those people with the things that they need to be successful, that's a superpower, Corinne. I love it.
And most of them know what it means to be an employee, right? They've been working their whole lives, but they don't know what it means to be an employer. And so they don't know the business acumen side of things. So they know, it's very different than working a 9 to 5 than actually putting together a 9 to 5, right? So that whole piece with what it takes to operate a business and understand business language and understand the economy and how it works and understand that business infrastructure. And so, working a business, working for a business and starting a business are two completely different processes.
No doubt. I mean, I've started two businesses, and
Hmm.
I know that struggle firsthand.
Yeah.
Who would you say is your ideal client? I know you like to work with probably underserved. I
Hmm.
think is how you put it earlier. But an ideal client, just kind of share
Yeah.
with the audience exactly what that means to you.
Yeah, most of our clients are on average 5 to 8 years old. Most of them are grossing anywhere from 750,000 to $1 million in revenue. Most of them still meet, all of them still meet what the SBA identifies as a small business. So they're going to have under 250 employees and less than 3 million in revenue. Most of our clients come to us with anywhere from 1 to 25 employees. Some are way more larger, mid-sized. We service clients that are as large as 125 and as less as one, and coming to us ready to hire. And many of them are just where they need to be. They've done well with marketing and sales, but now they're starting to think about growth. They're starting to think about succession. Where do I go from here? How do I take this business from just what we call an HR mom surviving, thriving, to now leaving a legacy, to really establishing a business that's going to be here long term, that I can transfer down through my lineage and be able to leave around for family and really grow from that mom and pop shop mentality to one that's going to be around for a long period of time.
Love that. A multi-generational legacy.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you got to build something that's built on great foundations.
Absolutely.
So if it's going to last, I always, one of my businesses is in construction, and when I see a construction company put up a building really, really fast, I always
Yeah, you
want.
start the question.
I'm like, sometimes these things take time for a reason. And sure enough, a few years later, you're seeing them do massive repairs or replacements because they
Hmm.
didn't take their time to get the foundation right.
Absolutely.
So yeah, if you want to build a multi-generational business, you've got to get the foundations right. You've got
Yeah,
to
and
get
I do a lot of work with our clients talking about taking what's in here and what's in here, what's in our head and our heart, and documenting it, putting it on paper, right? Because that's what those are those policies, those are those standard operating procedures. And a lot of times, as a solopreneur or entrepreneur, you have this idea, you have this product, and you're selling and you're working towards it, and it's making money, you're doing well. But now, when it's time to transition to that next stage, and you have to work on the business and not in the business, you
yes.
cannot now transfer that information on. So, really being able to have that documented and being able to process that on. My husband works in real estate. We both are entrepreneurs. He's a real estate investor as well. And so that foundation in the back of the house, I in HR, and that foundation is very, very important. And so we like to make sure we incorporate that from the very beginning.
That you're spot on. So
Mhm.
tell me, what makes you unique in that space?
Oh, so that's interesting. I think what makes me and what makes HR Mom unique in that space is that we bring a background that's housed in authentic communication and being able to have a conversation around really understanding where the business is and where we are, what our background brings. Understanding what we don't know, so asking a lot of questions, seeking out those resources. I'm a first generation entrepreneur. I'm a first generation college graduate. I come from very humble beginnings. Um, and so my family did not necessarily have access to business. I'm first generation Black wealth, I will say, both my husband and I. So it took a lot of time for us to understand just the dynamics of the space that we live and work in. And so being able to ask questions and being able to get access to information and being able to really slow down the process and understand the decisions that we're making. And so what makes us unique is being able to say, hey, let's slow down and get some information and answer the questions for what we don't know. And so how does that make us better? And how will that make our business better? And how will that make us function long term? And how will that make us much more competitive and much more sustainable? Because that is the goal. The goal isn't to be in it for the short term and make money right now, but how do we generate this for long term?
So first of all, congratulations on all of that. The first generation entrepreneur, first generation college grad, and then you're out there taking all the stuff that you learned about building a business and helping other people do that.
Yeah.
So congratulations on all that because that's amazing.
I should add also, I am one class away from finishing my doctorate in strategic leadership. So I'll be the first doctor in my family on both sides and probably 300 relatives. So,
Amazing.
um, 300 plus relatives. So, like I said, coming from very humble beginnings, my mother and father my mother was a heroin addict up until the time I was a sophomore in college. And so, I went off to college with just the need to survive in terms of having access to housing and wanting to change my life and all those different things. So college became an outlet and education became an outlet. And so that set me on a trajectory to be able to change my life. And so understanding that at age 45, where I sit now, and being able to have access to great jobs that gave me great skill set to be able to start my own business. I'm also a professor of communications. And so I teach business, I teach communications, I teach public speaking, small group, interpersonal communications, a whole lot of communications courses. I've been teaching for over 20 years now. And so it gives me a lot of insight to be able to bring that to my business. That's also unique too in my work with my business owners as well. So we take that whole story and who they are. And most of the businesses I work with are either first generation or transfer down a legacy business, mom and pop shop, and being able to take that story and incorporate it into why they do the work they do and why it's so important to get access to these services and grow the business so it can survive, thrive, and leave a legacy.
Wow. I love that. And I mean, congratulations to those businesses that get to work with you because how often does an underserved population or business owner have access to somebody with not only experience but also an academic background with a PhD in strategic leadership as a coach for them, right?
Right.
That doesn't happen for everybody. So congratulations to them, the opportunity to work with you. Where do you see the industry going over the next couple of years?
I see the HR industry and particularly the work in small business going in a way where we know that 99% of small businesses in America are generating the economy, right? So I see a lot of resources, a lot of funding being able to support small business growth and development, a lot of business support in the urban areas on the small business corridors, to support the economic growth in some of our larger cities. I'm in Philadelphia. I know you mentioned Tampa in your area, but even in some of the larger and smaller cities in those business corridors. I also see supports coming in place for hybrid work and mental health in the workplace. All of us coming out of COVID and grieving in a number of different ways. And so I see those supports growing in the workplace. I see policies changing as we support the different generations in the workplace. I have a 19-year-old that's in college right now. And as I look at who she is and how she's developing, and when she comes into the workforce, very different than a Gen Z or a Gen X or a baby boomer that's, transitioning out. So all these different levels of folks in the workplace right now and what that looks like for small businesses, mid-sized and large businesses altogether. Yeah.
Awesome. So I know you coach business leaders and you talk to them about their successes and you help them see more successes. But we all know that we learn more from our failures and our mistakes than
hmm
from our successes. Would you mind sharing something that you've learned the hard way?
Something I've learned the hard way. So this goes back to understanding the difference between being an employee and an employer. And so one of the things I had to learn the hard way is I didn't understand going into my business when I started in 2017. I didn't understand a lot of the financial mechanics, what it took to operate a business. From the financial side of things, I knew a lot of the development and organizational and marketing and just a lot of those other things and product and policy and service development. But from the financial standpoint, I was very weak. I didn't know my numbers. I didn't understand how to read reports. I kind of stayed away from the math. I like to shop personally, so the budget thing was not a big deal for me. I was like, I'll fix it on the back end, and I realized I couldn't operate like that. And so I had to seek out resources, coaches, CPAs, accountants, to really help me understand that piece. So I really struggled in the beginning, just understanding how important it was to be on top of my projections and forecasting and understanding what that meant. I had excellent personal credit, so it really helped me to be able to get financing for my business and support financially and things of that nature. And I was able to make good strategic decisions with a CPA and a partner to help me. We grew from an LLC to an S corp and take advantage of some tax breaks and supports there. But just really not understanding that piece, I really struggled in the beginning. And so helping businesses to sort of think about, again, it's not just about the income that we can make right now, but the decisions that we can make long term.
I love that. I struggle with the financial part of that. My background is military, so I spent 32 years in uniform, and I can run a military budget, but in the military, usually when you run out of money, you go get more. So
Right.
that didn't work in the private sector. It does not work in the small business world. But you said something that's really, really important, I think, that I just want to stress so the audience hears this. When you didn't understand something or you weren't really good at a particular area, you did two things. One, you started to teach yourself. And second, which is I think the most important, is you found people to help you. You found experts in that field to help you with your business and to teach you. And I think there's a lot of small business owners that are very smart people, but they may not have a particular expertise in some areas. Finance is one of them. Sometimes the HR piece is another one because those are separate. Sometimes marketing is a shortfall for them. Sometimes sales is a shortfall for them. Usually they're good operators. Usually they've got the operations piece down. But if you don't have all of those components working together, your business is going to struggle. So sometimes you can't be smart at all of those things because some of us aren't wired to be smart at all of those things. That's where
and that's very important too, Bob. I'm sorry to cut you off, but that's a life skill and a life lesson too. And I think for folks that are in survival mode too, even just in business or even in life, that's a skill that you can take with you. You have to seek out individuals that know more than you, that maybe have access more than you, and you need to ask questions. And I did that at a very early on in a young age. So if I realized I was the smartest person in the room, I would move into another room. I would ask somebody else. I'm in the wrong room. I need somebody who knows more than me. I'm okay hiring someone who knows a little bit more. And even now, I have 3 coaches right now. I have a coach that helps me in business growth. I have a coach that helps me in marketing. I have a coach that helps me in finance. And so those 3 areas, I'm still learning. And like I said, I'm at the highest level in my pedigree, and that's okay. But I still am open to learning, and I am constantly asking questions. I like to say I'm a collector and a connector of people, right? I'm always connecting individuals to resource, but I'm always collecting resources as well and asking questions. And so it's almost how I got through life as well. In my trauma and hardships, I would ask questions to older people, older women, older individuals who were experienced or had what I desired to have. I'm also a woman of faith. And so, I prayed a lot. I accepted Christ as my Lord and Savior when I was 11 years old. So at that point in my life, I would ask a lot of questions to people who were older than me in terms of wisdom, in terms of knowledge, in terms of what decisions do I need to make as a young adult or as a teenager, in my marriage to be successful. This December, my husband and I will be married 21 years, and so it's being a person who acquires and wants knowledge and wants to do well and wants to serve others well. You can only do that when you have a good, we talked about earlier, foundation, and when you have good information. And so people are not going to listen and follow if you're not the model, right? So if you're not modeling that and you don't know that what you know works, they're not going to follow that. They're not going to implement the tools that you're giving them. And so for me, it was all about asking those questions, getting information, and humbling myself to be okay to say, I don't know what I don't know, and so I need to ask.
So the humility piece as a leader is so important, and the entire concept of who, not how. Whenever I start to try to figure out how to do something, now I've changed my mindset because I was coached.
Mm-hmm.
I was coached to do this, to change my mindset to ask not how can I do this, but who can do this for me,
Yep.
or who can teach me how to do this, right? When I mean, yeah, I can watch a lot of YouTube videos and I can read a lot of books. But I'll tell you what, my CPA does a much better job at my books than I do. So it's
Absolutely. I teach my clients if you want to create, they like, I want to, I'm like, I say, if you want to create time, you find people. You find somebody to do it for you. There are things that you can outsource. CPA, you need an assistant, all these administrative tasks that you're doing and you're working in your business instead of on your business.
yeah.
We can hire someone that's smarter than you, that's way more efficient, that knows how to use technology and AI and chat GPT and make all these things work a whole lot better for you and effectively and efficiently. You just got to do that.
You got to do it. And so there's always a struggle when you tell a small business owner that they've got to hire somebody. And what is it the first thing they say?
I don't have the money.
I can't
I
afford
can't
it.
afford it.
I can't afford it. And what do you tell
And
them?
I sit down with them and I say, oh, well, tell me how you've been working now. And they say, oh, I have a contractor. I've been working with a contractor. I've been paying an independent contractor. And I say, well, how much are you paying them? And they show me. And then I sit down with the numbers again and I show them, well, you know what? You can pay this person as an employee. You are already paying this person 30 or 40 or $50,000 a year by paying them project based or paying them, $1,200 or whatever. And this is how much you're spending over time. But because they don't sit down and focus and don't know the numbers, they didn't know they're already financing a W-4 employee that they could afford on the books. And so now let's put this person on the books. Let's make them salary. Let's convert them over, which also could be a compliance issue because we could be operating them incorrectly because it's not how you want to pay them, it's how you're using them, right?
Yeah.
And how they're working for you. And so now that you have those extra monies in place, and because you converted them over, let's say you were paying them 60,000 a year, and now you got them on salary for 55, and now we have this, that $5,000 cushion that we obviously going to use for taxes and all that because you acquiring an employer operation cost. Hopefully you saw a return on investment with your sales increase and all that because we're getting productivity, we're getting more hours out of them and all that. And now we're able to take those monies and use those monies for something else. Now let's hire someone else or, a part-time person or things of that nature. So I'm able to sit down with them and strategically forecast and use their numbers. That's also how I'm able to afford my costs. I know my product and service isn't cheap. And so when you look at our website and we have a survive, thrive, and legacy plan, that's our retainer plans. And folks are like, oh my goodness, they are sticker shop. And I'm saying you probably, you can afford the service. Let's look at what you're already doing and let's look at where we can cut and streamline costs so that you can acquire someone like me and I can show you your return. And we've been able to, based on converting some of our clients, contractors into employees, we've been able to save them almost 30% in payroll costs at
Wow.
times. So if we're able to do that, we're able to now show you where you can get some more money in your operating costs and your operating budget. So, we're seeing a return. You're seeing a return right away
I
in your
love
ability
that.
to pay
I
my
love that.
fee.
My goal with my clients is to have them 10x their investment in me. So if you want to make an additional $100,000, I'm going to charge you 10,
Yep,
and you'll get a 10x return on your investment most of the time. Some of them have seen up to 20x. They are the clients that keep coming back,
absolutely.
for sure. But it's incredibly valuable to have a coach in your life that helps you. You obviously believe in coaching. You have 3 coaches, and I always think about Tom Brady at the top of his game had 4 coaches, right?
Yep,
And he is world class, and still not done getting better. Which for me, that's the first when I heard that statement from a mentor of mine. He says, "Yeah, I've got a high performance coach," and I went, "Really?" He says, "Yeah, I'm not done getting better yet. Here's a guy in his 60s, not done getting better
getting
yet."
better. Yeah, I
I'm
like
like,
that.
man, I love that perspective. I love that attitude. And I'm not done getting better yet either, and neither is Corinne. So I love it.
Absolutely.
What's the easiest way for people to get in touch with you?
So the easiest way to get in touch with us is through our socials. We have a website. Also, our website is hrmomllc.com. Our socials on Instagram and TikTok is at hrmom, the number 4u, at hrmom4u. And then Facebook is hrmomllc.
Hey, thanks for tuning in to the Leader's Edge Hot Take Series. I hope you found today's insight meaningful, valuable, and that you're ready to put them into action. Now, if you enjoyed the episode and want to keep improving your leaderships, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any future episodes. I post new content every week, packed with strategies, tips, and real-life examples to help you lead with impact. Now remember, great leadership isn't just about guiding others, it's about continuously growing yourself. If you'd like to be considered as a guest for upcoming episodes, please go to 5eaglesleadership.com/interview to apply today. Keep pushing, keep learning, and I'll see you in the next episode. Be awesome.